On November 5th, 2013, voters within the Concordia School District will be asked to decide the fate of the USD 333 bond issue. If passed, this bond will finance the construction of a FEMA-approved storm shelter at Concordia Elementary School, capable of protecting over 600 students and staff in the event of dangerous weather. In addition to the shelter, funds will finance a new heating, ventilation, and cooling system for the elementary school. Funds will also be used to make district-wide lighting and electrical upgrades, replacement of stadium lighting, and replacement of the HVAC at the High School Technical Education Center. The total amount of this bond issue is $5.5 million, to be raised with 2 additional mill levies to be paid over 20 years. Property taxes are what will finance this bond. As a voter, you might have questions to ask before going to the polls.
Is there really a need for a tornado shelter?
Can we afford this bond right now?
Do we need all this extra stuff, like the lighting and AC?
And how much is this going to cost me?
Those are very good questions, and we'll answer those. But let's look at the biggest question.
What exactly is a FEMA storm shelter?
A FEMA storm shelter is a hardened structure specifically designed to meet the Federal Emergency Management Agency criteria and provide near absolute protection in extreme weather events, including tornadoes. To be considered a FEMA safe room, the structure must be designed and constructed to the guidelines specified in FEMA P361, Design and Construction Guidance for Community Safe Rooms.
In other words, it's a building no tornado could take down.
Okay, so what's it going to look like? What are the specifications?
The FEMA shelter planned for Concordia Elementary School will hold up to 611 students and adults, more than enough space to protect the entire student body and staff. The shelter will be constructed on the southwest, attached to the existing structure. It will also house 4 classrooms, 4 bathrooms, and storage space.
I thought this was a tornado shelter. Why are we putting classrooms in it?
To me, it makes sense. It's like we're getting the most for our buck. If we're going to have to spend, we're spending this money to add to the safety, well, why not use it every day instead of just the days when there is severe weather, or just the days for safety measures when we would need the FEMA shelter? Why not use it every day?
If the shelter is something we rarely need, why spend the money?
I'm sure different places you can talk to as well, from, I'm just thinking in Kansas, Chapman, to, I know in Oklahoma this past year, we never get tornadoes, but that time it would happen, I'd rather, if I can take advantage of how to keep my building safe and how to keep my most prized possessions safe within this building, I want to do that.
When my son was in elementary school, I happened to be in the building while they were doing an actual tornado drill. After that day, I was very scared for my son if there were ever to be a tornado in the city of Concordia. My son, who was a 2nd or 3rd grader at the time, was placed in against an interior wall, which was the safest place they could find to put these students. Shortly after that, I watched a documentary on television of a school that had a tornado during the school day when children were inside the building. And I watched many of those beams fall on top of where my child would have been sitting in an interior wall.
It's not just tornadoes we're looking at protecting our kids from. Not too long ago, Concordia Middle School had a storm with some straight line winds that caused a lot of damage when school was in session.
All of a sudden, it was probably 1:30 or 2 o'clock in the afternoon. We hear this loud rumble, and I kind of looked out my window and I could see things coming off of the top of the building. And then we hear Mr. Stricker, the principal at the time, kind of came down and said, "Everybody stay calm. We've evacuated the 5th grade classes out of their out of their classrooms because their roofs are coming off of the building, basically, and things were blowing around and here and there, but it was just straight line winds. And it had been windy that day, but nothing we weren't expecting something like that."
I understand the need for the shelter, but that doesn't answer my question. Can we afford this right now? The economy is still in recovery.
Here are the financial facts for this bond. The bond will be issued for $5.5 million to be repaid over 20 years. For the taxpayer within the USD 333 school district, this will cost a homeowner with a $75,000 home about $17 a year, or 5 cents a day. A business owner would pay about $100 a year. A farmer would pay about $5 for grassland and $19 for cropland each year.
My taxes will be affected by this either way, especially as a business owner. But in my opinion, you cannot put a price on the safety of our children.
Is this a good time? The economy.
That's exactly why this is a good time. Voter-approved bond issues qualify for 40% state aid, meaning the state of Kansas, right now, will contribute 40% of the funds for this project. But the current economic situation has led to massive cuts in the state budget. 40% state aid is available now, but will it be there next year?
Since we're talking about the economy, let's get back to my question. Why do we need this extra stuff besides the shelter, like the HVAC for the elementary and the electrical upgrades?
The electrical upgrades are just good sense. Simple district-wide upgrades, as well as heating and cooling replacement at the High School Technical Education Center, will produce savings of over $50,000 a year. And the HVAC replacement at the elementary school is more than just a good idea. It's a necessity.
You either have hot or cold. There's no tempering, and I try to think of it as, would you take a cold bath or a shower, or a hot bath and a shower, or would you want your water tempered so you are more comfortable? And you can't do that here. It's extremely high maintenance to try to reach that balance point so everybody's comfortable. I'm here this time of year. I'll be here 4, 5, 6 times a day, tweaking controls and making adjustments to try to keep the system balanced.
How inefficient is the elementary school HVAC system? Current energy use of the elementary HVAC runs at $1.16 per square foot. The HVAC at the high school, a sprawling building constructed in 1929, runs at 66 cents a square foot.
Okay, that tells me the elementary school isn't well built. So tell me, why wasn't it built right in the first place?
What we voted on was a building that was much less expensive, so we cut a lot of corners, and that isn't always the best solution.
Something needs to be done, because this building's never been balanced and comfortable like it should have been.
By investing in this bond, you're also showing the support and investing in the safety of our kids. They can come to a building that they feel safe in. They can come to a place where they're not freezing one minute and sweating the next minute, to where they feel so cared and loved for already by this phenomenal staff that we're just by adding the support of the community with the FEMA shelter and with the HVAC, it's just helps us give them all that safety.
Well, I understand better why we're voting on this.
I feel I can make the right choice now.
On November 5th, make your choice.
Choose our children.
Choose safety.
Choose our schools.